Recording in progress.
Good afternoon. Today is September 11th, 2023, and it is 2:03 p.m. As a quorum of the committee is in attendance, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Central Health. Yes.
Sorry, I would like to know if we could just do a moment of silence in honor of the people who lost their lives
In Morocco?
on 9/11.
Oh, on 9/11.
Microphone. Can you
I was
repeat?
just asking whether or not we could have just a moment of silence in remembrance of, in honor of the people, those that lost their lives at 9/11 in New York City.
That's fine. Okay, we'll proceed now. Good afternoon. Today is September 11th, 2023, and it is 2:03 p.m. As a quorum of the committee is in attendance, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Central Health Ad Hoc Appointments Committee. As a reminder, some of our committee members may be also participating by video conference, so the staff will be managing video and audio feeds of all participants closely to make sure we have a legally compliant meeting at all times. The first item of business is public communication. Members of the public who wish to make comments virtually during the public communications portion of the meeting must have registered with Central Health via the online form or by telephone no later than 12:30 today. Brianna, did anyone register to make comments for the Ad Hoc Appointments Committee meeting? Thank you. We'll now proceed with the committee agenda. Agenda item 1, approve the minutes of the Ad Hoc Appointments Committee, August 21st, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion? Manager, yes?
I move that the committee approve the minutes of the Ad Hoc Appointments Committee of the August 21st, 2023 meeting.
Have a second?
Second.
Manager Jones, can we have a vote, please? Those in favor? Aye. Those in favor? Nay? And abstain? None. The motion passes. Item agenda 2, discuss and take appropriate action on the procedures and timeline to be used by the Appointments Committee to solicit, evaluate, and recommend candidates for new appointments and reappointments to outside boards and committees. Members, everyone should have received a packet and has hopefully perused that. And I'm open for questions concerning that.
It is an
Well, this was sent as a package last week, yeah.
agenda item.
Mhm. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
I just want to
Yes, Manager.
clarify that under the first question of the designated questions, that we'll have the leeway to be able to ask them to expand upon their experience.
What are you addressing? We're on
The
agenda.
questions that we had received.
Oh, that's in the next agenda item.
Oh, it's not in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one.
This agenda is, if you look on the back page, it's on page 14. That's what this addresses,
And page 15.
and page 15.
Yeah, I think I'm
Mhm.
on item 14. I'm on page 14 and 15.
Okay,
But this is to approve the process and the timeline,
yes.
correct?
Procedures and timeline to be used by the Appointments Committee.
Right, and it's not about the substance of the questions that were being asked by the interviewing committee?
No, that's later.
Okay. And with this, the search firm would be able, I'm just asking, whether or not the search firm would be able to tell us what minority-owned businesses they contracted with to reach out to to executives that might be other than Anglo.
What search firm are you alluding to?
If this says search
Oh.
form, we should strike it
Yeah.
because we won't be.
I'm
using
sorry,
it.
that was the email I got
Okay.
from Mike, sorry.
This is for the general boards.
all our boards and appointments.
If you least under 3, it says recruitment of potential candidates. After defining the role, the board should identify potential candidates. These candidates can come from a variety of sources, including suggestions from the current board members, industry contacts, professional organizations, or professional search firm.
I see.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
So you could actually, you know, if search firms sort of creates an issue for any of the members, you could strike that.
I'd be fine striking that.
Okay, because that was one of the things that we had received. I don't know if any other board member got one, but I know I got an email from a search firm that said that they they specialized in minority head hunting or minority executives.
Okay. Well, this is simply to serve on our governing boards.
Right.
So it's not really like a CEO headhunting like we're using for the,
Well, it could be the same thing. When you start looking at administrators, those with administrators that have had experience on other boards and commissions as a qualifier for being appointed to sit on our boards and commissions, then it's basically the same thing.
So this is,
yes, Mr. Jones.
I'm sorry, so this is basically saying, the recruitment of potential candidates can come from a variety of things, and these are those
Exactly.
inclusive of these, but is it limited to these, I guess is the question.
Because it says or, yeah, well, or.
The impression was this was pretty inclusive.
Yeah, probably I just didn't know, want to say ETC to make sure that there's something, for instance, like, the President of the United States should pick up the phone and call us and say, I'd like to nominate for the, you consider for something. I'm just trying to be inclusive is what I'm trying to say.
Or you could say that, you could put a sentence at the end that said this list is not.
Yeah,
Is,
all inclusive.
Yes.
It's not, there's a phrase that I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Restricted?
It doesn't yes, it doesn't restrict it to, it's not restricted to those listed before.
yeah, and I'd rather have that than et cetera.
Yeah,
But
I
yes,
just threw that
thank
out
you.
there.
Thank you both. Yes, Manager.
One more thing, and how are we going to get candidates, prospective candidates, names from within our population, other than administrators or people who are in high-level positions? I'm talking about like maybe somebody who is a MAP member, but quite qualified, or the general population, and they have their experience lies in the arena of community service and community involvement. How are we going to ensure that they are also possible candidates for a pool other than from us?
Yes, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know that this was earlier this year, but we had, the communications and outreach team had reached out to MAP members who would be interested in serving on the Community Care Board, because as you know, 51% of their board is representative of the patient population. And I believe through really just calling around and networking and asking and seeing if we could generate interest. But it was a very involved process, and I need to follow up to find out whatever happened, because I know that we were trying to find at least 5, but I think it came down to 2 that were willing to serve and had the time and to serve. But I'll need to follow. But that's just one example of how efforts are made to try to get individuals to serve on the boards. Now, these were not board appointments. I need to be real clear about that. But that's just one example of how we go out there and try to recruit MAP patients.
I guess what I was hoping for is that we will not be restrictive in the selection of possible candidates for our own appointments to boards and commissions.
No, I think the way it's written, Manager Aldez, is to be as
Sufficiently vague.
inclusive as possible.
Okay,
Okay?
good.
Deliberately done that way on purpose.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions? Discussions?
Just one caveat, just follow up on Manager Valdez. Is it possible, or do we just post on our website the announcement of board positions?
I'll let maybe Mr. Geisler answer that.
So we would take every avenue possible to try to push this information out there. And that includes making phone calls, because even if you are, depending on which side of the digital divide are you on, whether you have access or not, there's only so much communication that you're going to pay attention to at any one given time period. So we know these things can get lost in the shuffle.
Yes, Manager Millens?
Just to follow up with that, I'm talking in terms of, and I'm sure Shannon would agree with me, like maybe putting an announcement on what is it, KZI, and also on some of the Spanish-speaking or bilingual radio stations. Just a little blurb. They should be able to give us some time as a public service announcement. And then also the city and the county websites. If we could post something on their website and then on ours.
Well, we could direct staff to, if that occurs, to approach KUT, approach KZI, whatever you say.
How about-
Yes.
How about also, recruitment can take place also in appropriate media and internet resources.
Okay. Yes.
If you did add it to 3 in that way, that's the same as effectively directing staff. This is what you want to see happen. I would like to point out that some radio stations have changed how they treat public service announcements, and it really is an ad buy at this point. Those are very limited minutes that they have, and you're competing with other public service announcements. So there may need to be some cost associated with actually buying ad space on any of the radio stations.
Yes.
Well, since Central Health bought so much time during this budget season to advertise with KUT, which we know many of the more educated and enlightened taxpayers pay attention to and listen to, yet they didn't seem to do that on other stations. I would hope that they would consider that as a necessary cost for expanding our pool of applicants to consider. Thank you.
Mike?
I didn't say it wasn't an unnecessary cost. I just wanted to point out for this committee's understanding that you've mentioned public service announcements, and we don't get those just because we ask for them. Sometimes we have to pay, that's all.
All right, anything else? Oh, okay. Well, can I ask for a motion? Manager Bell?
Let's see here. I move that the committee recommend that the board approve the procedures and timeline to be used by the appointments committee to solicit, evaluate, and recommend candidates for new appointments and reappointments to outside boards and committees as discussed and amended in this committee.
Do I have a second? Manager Brinson? Yes?
I just want to make sure that somewhere it's memorialized that this discussion. Thank you. This discussion is indicative of direction, that staff would be more inclusive in searching out for a variety of applicants from various socioeconomic levels. Thank you.
Noted, thank you. So I have a second by Manager Brinson. I'd like to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstaining? The motion passes. Okay. Agenda item number 3. Discuss and take appropriate actions on steps to be followed by the committee to submit a recommendation to Central Health Board of Managers for a candidate to be appointed to outside boards and committees. This also was sent to everyone. And it's on page 19 of your handout. Are there any questions? Yes, Manager.
This is where I think, this is where I believe I can ask that question, where,
Actually, it's one more.
It's one
oh,
more.
it's one
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the questions?
The questions,
The
yes.
questions are on page 23 under agenda item number 4.
This is also something that should be advertised in the same type of format or same places. City of Austin, Travis County, not only on the Central Health website, so that the public will know.
And
That we're in this-
what are you talking about at this
Yeah.
time?
This is simply a motion for an approval
approval process
process.
for-
This is what,
Once we've seen people, interviewed people, how we move forward from there. Yes, Manager Bell.
Manager Valadez, this is what you had concerns about when we went to the board meeting. You felt as if the approval process
Was limiting.
was in some way usurping the individuals who were not at this committee meeting. And so this is the approval process. And so we're taking some discussion, questions, whatever.
Yes, sir. And as I recall, and I'm trying to remember the meeting, in our regular board meeting, whether or not we did ask the board whether they, because I'm trying to recall.
No, we didn't vote on it.
We did not vote on it. We
Because I
simply,
didn't- we didn't move the motion at
we
all.
discussed it, yeah.
We just discussed it.
Okay, so the,
But they'll have a chance this time, because this, if you recommend this one, and, then in essence, you can lay out what your concern is, and then the whole board will vote on it, if you choose to do so.
but the issue is that they would be voting on the recommendation, the recommended candidate, not the
Well,
the
they would be-
finalists.
They would,
Is that correct?
They would be approving this one page.
right, and in this, to
my
go
point.
back to what you're saying, in this procedure, yes, we would only be forwarding for recommendation to appoint one individual.
And that is my concern.
That's correct.
Correct, and that's what was tried to address here. Then there are other pathways to address that.
And what other pathways are those?
As
That
part-
that the Board of Managers not accept that recommendation, but I find it,
But there's also another pathway where you can actually recruit some other board members and then appeal that process that we call an executive meeting specifically for that issue. If you are opposed to a candidate or wish to have 3 or 4 people interviewed by the whole board. The point of this was to, once again, as multiple managers have said, sort of streamline the process to not everyone get lost in the weeds of each different little committee, to then submit someone that we vetted when the context, Manager Valadez, that every board member can come and interview the candidate. It's not, and also can then debate it at the Board of Managers meeting as well, to vote no or yay. And that was simply was the issue is of streamlining that process, with every manager invited to the meeting, as we are with every meeting, to ask the questions and feel content with the answers they've received or not received, so.
I appreciate you elaborating on what we had discussed previously, but the issue for me still is that it is a limiting process, and that's okay, y'all will vote this forward, but we didn't get an opportunity for the board members to discuss this, and I know it was lengthy, we had a lengthy meeting, and there was a reason for limiting discussion, just like we didn't have a discussion on other issues, and that was moved forward to another time, but I will tell you that I still do believe that it is really outside our, I think it's within, actually, not outside, within our responsibility to review candidates, to be able to ask them questions, clarifying questions, before we make them or consider them as candidates or board members of other boards and commissions that we're sending our message to.
But so I'm in
No,
addressing
that's-
that. No, I'm just simply. I mean, in what way do you feel this does not address that? Because we specifically have it an open process to ask the questions, to come to the meeting, and have your say or anyone's say.
The open process is done during a board of managers meeting, not a committee meeting. Because this is a new process that is being created, it is a more restrictive process and limiting in what we used to do originally, is what I'm saying. And because of that, I have to at least stand up for those that may or may not have given it any thought at our board meeting, but we didn't have the opportunity to decide for ourselves, each individual, whether or not we wanted to participate in the responsibility of selecting a candidate who would represent Central Health on other boards and commissions. That's all I'm saying. And that goes to each individual board manager's, I guess, self-evaluation or determination of what their priorities are, so they can decide for themselves whether or not they believe that evaluating and asking questions of possible candidates to our board and commission appointments that would be sending our message to those various boards and appointments, board and commission appointments, entities' appointments, is not within their realm or important enough to them that they would not do this. It is important enough to me, and that's the only reason I'm standing up for this, because I do believe that it is our fiduciary responsibility to interview all candidates and to make a selection after having a board discussion. And I'll just vote no on
Okay, well,
this.
but-
That's it.
But Madam Evangelist, I hate to.
We don't have to all be in agreement.
No, I'm not being in agreement, but I think that your statements are incorrect, and that's what I wish to address. Every member of the board is welcome to come interview, ask questions, review anything they wish to review in the application. In no way is this exclusive. The only thing that's exclusive is in the voting and who we submit.
But that's the most important thing, is the voting. Okay,
Well-
the evaluation and the interviewing of the candidates is very important for a person to determine whether or not that entity or that person is qualified to sit on that board or commission of the entities that we're trying to make the appointment to. But as a board member, it's equally important for us to be able to vote on them. And unless we are in a committee meeting, which is less than the full board, then that is in fact limiting the participation level, and it's limiting the influence of our 9 appointees by the city and the county to make that decision as to who will represent Central Health on those respective boards and commissions. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Manager Brinson.
So my suggestion, and I know you know why we want to do that, and that is because of just time limitations that some board members have, and the people on this board are very interested in making sure we make good decisions for the full board. But perhaps we could send, before the vote, the resume of the individual we interviewed and the questions that were asked and the answers to the full board prior to the final vote.
And that could be in the backup.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be in the backup for the
Yes.
agenda,
Thank you.
whether it's consent or regular.
Right.
Manager Valdez.
In Spanish, we have a saying, ya después de atole. So after the fact, after the committee, which is a lesser than, it's sub-board of managers meeting, after they have made to the board members a recommendation for a possible candidate to any board or commission, then what that will in fact do, just because you attach the resume or qualifying information for that one recommended candidate, doesn't mean that you had information from any other candidate and were involved in
I was thinking we would
Thank you. That
I'm
is
sorry, I
not
didn't hear that.
correct. That's simply not correct. Every manager has access to the same, if they wish to review the applicant, review the application that was sent in, review their CV, and be in attendance. Furthermore, they have.
To this committee meeting.
Of course.
I got it.
Yeah, so then it's brought to the Board of Managers. Once again, it can be addressed there. I feel strongly against this candidate. If you feel that other people need brought, there is another process that you can bring other members on to change that. The attempt is not to negate anyone, it's simply to streamline the process with as much input as everyone wishes to put in. Yes, Manager Bell.
I have no comments about that discussion. I will say, even though I don't agree with Manager Valdez, if you would like to have the entire board vote on it's process item number 3, then you can pull the agenda item, and this will be in the backup, and you can make a motion and outline the edits that you would like to make to 3. I'd prefer it if you give it to everybody before, you do that. And send it to Brianna and let Brianna send it to everybody. And then the whole board can vote on this particular process with your wording either included or not included.
I appreciate that, Dr. Bell. That's a very diplomatic thing for you to do. And does that mean that we're not going to vote on this particular agenda item
You have
today?
to vote it to move it to the board. So we have to now you can vote no on this one, but we have to vote it to move the recommendation to the board. You can pull the recommendation and say you want to discuss it and you want to make edits to the procedure or the process that's outlined and outline what your edits are, and we can, as a board, we can vote on it. But if we don't vote on it here, it doesn't move anywhere.
So then I would like to table this agenda item until further action is taken by the Board of Managers after putting this item on an agenda for them to consider. I move to table.
I'm not going to second that.
No.
I don't know if that needs a second.
It does.
It does.
I have a question.
Yes,
Manager Valdez, I want to make sure I'm clear. So, and you all help me if I'm understanding the other position. Under this rule, what this means is that at our appointment board meeting, at our appointment committee meeting, you're asking that all board members come to the board member, attend that meeting, participate in the question answering, review the qualifications, go through the whole process, all board members who want to, obviously, and then vote at that point in time for that member to be put on the governing board of whatever organization is. I just want to make sure, is that what you're asking?
What we used to do before, Shannon, is that the candidates would come to the entire board. They would be interviewed, or they would be recommended by staff after staff had reviewed them. And then we would have a discussion about it and we would make a selection, but that would be the full board. This is an amended, and this is the first time we've ever done it, so that only like a subcommittee of the Board of Managers is going to have the ability to vote on recommendations. And that's the thing, everybody can see the information, everybody can come sit in a committee which is lesser than the full board. They can come sit here and ask questions, but they will not be able to vote. The only voting people will be the 4 members appointed to the ad hoc appointments committee.
No, okay, I'm following. I just want to make sure so I can understand what you're
Yes,
saying.
that's what
The bottom line of what you want to hear is for the full board to vote on all of the candidates for the position.
at the very least, to get a vote from the full board members, from all board members, as to whether or not they believe that this is part of their fiduciary responsibility or not. Whether or not they want to participate in the selection process of one of their own appointees to other boards and commissions. they should have the ability to, as adults, we should have the ability to make informed choices, but we really can't make an informed choice after the fact. We have to be there during the discussion so that we can hear everything that was discussed or ask for clarifying responses.
Okay, so, and I'll end it at this, Chair. If, for instance, under current system, if we recommend, this committee recommends, let's say, 2 candidates to the board for full approval, and there was a third candidate that says another board member wanted but was not moved forward, is there the possibility at the full board member for the board to say, we'd like to enter in or nominate X candidate at this time to be considered? Would that meet your needs?
I think that maybe we're having an issue understanding what informed decision means. An informed decision means that you have had access to all deliberations and discussion regarding that particular item. So for us, it would be the eligibility or the appropriateness of a candidate that we are recommending to the full board for appointment to another board and commission. If we have not participated, sat in, or listened to that and been able to make a decision, then that's not a full, and we're just going to act on what is going to be recommended to us. That's not a full informed decision.
So your recommendation is there's really not a need for the appointment committee?
Well, not for our appointments to boards and commissions. I think that that's something we as a board should do as a whole.
Well, I'm not judging, I'm just want to
No,
make sure
yes,
I'm
yes,
clear.
sir.
That's what you're,
That is
you're
correct.
recommending. Okay,
That is
all right,
correct.
that's what I was trying to get.
And however we want to justify whatever words we want to use, streamline or whatever, that's just not anything that I agree to, but thank you.
Yes,
That's my own
Manager
personal opinion.
If we take no action on this right now, the way that people are appointed to the board, to external boards at this point in time, is through the executive committee. I don't know where Manager Valadez was, but the last time we appointed, we had an executive committee meeting. Only the executives could vote. We had other members there. They asked questions. The executive committee recommended one person to the full board, and that recommendation was voted on by the full board. That is the way that the appointments works now. All right? The only thing you're doing differently is it's not the executive committee. It's the appointment committee.
And thank you, Manager.
Right, no, I follow what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just.
And I would like to point out, Manager Velez, that someone who has enough interest in appointments and can't yet bother to come to the appointments committee meeting, I don't really care how they vote. And I don't think that vote should be included. If anyone cares enough to sit through the meeting and ask questions, they have been validated and supported, and that's the way the process should work. We need a process, and the whole point of this appointments committee is to create a process. And we are sitting here for that reason, to take a vote on that. So,
One last thing, and I won't say anything else.
Chair, there is a motion on.
Is there a motion on?
It's for tabling, and that means if it doesn't have a second, it dies and it's not
We're not gonna
debatable.
second. That's right. And
there was
and-
not a second.
No, so it moved, it died. So I'd just like to say one last thing, and that is that I appreciate y'all's patience with me in allowing me to move forward and saying what I have to say or what I believe. But I've always believed that that is something that we as a board should do, just like there are other things that I believe that we as a board should do and haven't always done them. That I just think that's being more forward-thinking and inclusive, that's all. Thank you.
All right.
Need another motion.
So
Yes.
we vote now, right?
No, we take I need a
No one
motion.
second her tabling motion,
Yeah.
so now we need a motion.
I need a motion.
Okay, okay.
For the agenda
So I move to accept the recommendation by the
want me to read it for you?
You wanna read it?
Okay. I move that the committee recommend that the board approve the procedures and timeline as used by the Appointments Committee to solicit, evaluate, and recommend candidates for new appointments and reappointments to outside boards and committees as discussed and amended in this committee.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay,
I
she
just
did
read
it
it for
first,
her.
right, thank
Yeah.
you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Nay? Thank you. Noted. Any abstentions? No. So the motion passes. Thank you. Item agenda number 4. Discuss and take appropriate action on minimal experience criteria for the candidates being considered for new
I'm
appointments.
sorry, I read the wrong motion.
Oh, you did? Which one did you read?
I read the motion for number 2.
Oh, okay.
It should have been the motion for number 3.
Okay.
So Dr. Brinson is reading, I move that the committee recommend that the board approve the steps to be followed by the committee to submit a recommendation to the Central Health Board of Managers. Legal, have questions?
Did Dr. Brinson, who's going to be first?
Dr. Brinson is doing the motion,
Okay.
and I'm just reading what
She's reading.
Oh, you have it? Okay, okay.
So I'll make the, so on agenda item 3, I move that the committee recommend that the board approve the steps to be followed by the committee to submit a recommendation to the Central Health Board of Managers for a candidate to be appointed to outside boards and committees as discussed and amended in this committee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second. Hasi?
Chair, we should go ahead and just be on the safe side, rescind that previous one where the language was confusing, so we have something clean and proper. So, and we have to have a vote for that as well, to rescind that,
To
or
rescind
the individual who moved for it can rescind it as well.
So
And I vote to remove the inaccurate vote on item number 4. 3. Originally, yeah,
to rescind.
to rescind the original vote on number 3.
And if you could read it just one more time, so now that it's rescinded.
So we are approving, or what we are voting on, that the committee recommend that the board approve the steps to be followed by the committee to submit a recommendation to the Central Health Board of Managers for a candidate to be appointed to outside boards and committees as discussed and amended in this committee.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Manager Bell seconds. And do I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Noted. Manager Valadez, nay. And the motion passes. Agenda item number 4. Discuss and take appropriate action on minimal experience criteria for the candidates being considered for new appointments. Once again, this was sent out earlier.
You want to take a motion first?
I'd like to, can I have a motion?
I move that the committee recommend that the board approve the minimal experience criteria for candidates being considered for new appointments as discussed in this committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Now let's discuss.
Now let's discuss it. Thank you.
I just wanted to confirm that if we had clarifying questions of prospective applicants, that would basically fall under the first question, outline the aspects, blah, blah, blah. That's where that would be more open-ended and allowing them to respond to managers' questions,
Are you,
so that we wouldn't have to further add further language or another 8 or question or other thing. Basically, it was open. I just wanted to confirm that it was open-ended enough that we would be able to ask our further clarifying questions.
that's the intent, but once again, we need to adhere to the same questions and the idea of the questions to be fair to all the candidates. Yes.
I understand the question. The questions have to be the same, but each person's experience and background is different. Each person's lens is different. So I was under the assumption that we would have the flexibility under item number 1 to ask the individual applicants clarifying questions with respect to their varied experiences and perspectives.
Yes, Manager.
I think if we explain how we're planning to do this, this might get at your point. The questions that we're gonna ask those candidates for board appointments will be given to the candidate beforehand.
Right.
And we will ask that they write the answers to us, all right? So we will have not only the question, but their answer. If you read in their answer something you have a question about,
Right.
to say, worked for Goodwill for, 5 years or something. And you want to know, well, what did you do and how did that sort of give you experience to deal with people, et cetera? I'm making all this up.
No, I get it.
And so, yes, you will be able to do that in the interview. All right? I think that gets
That
at your
is,
point.
that is exactly what I'm trying to get to. The only issue that I didn't have, the only concern other than that would be kind of laughing at the time limitation question, because we were all, as we went through the application process, each and every one of us was asked whether or not we had any time restrictions and whether or not they would impede our ability to serve on this board.
Conflict? Is that what you're,
No,
conflict?
time.
No, we
Oh,
had enough
I'm
time.
sorry, I didn't.
Time to be able to serve on this board of managers. And everybody that is on this board of managers said, yes, oh, we got plenty of time. And then we come to our meetings, and the big justifier for creating timelines is that we don't have time to do this. So I'm just having a funny moment in reflecting upon that. But other than that, Dr. Bell, you got what I was asking on the clarifying questioning. Thank you.
And I think that would be a good follow-up question from number 4. Because we asked, do you have any time constraints that may limit the full participation in required board activities? Whatever they write, you can say, do you realize that, this is gonna take a certain amount of time, you've got meetings, you've got committee meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it could be I think her topic could be investigated under item number 4.
They were left open-ended specifically for that reason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No?
Just one comment. So are the candidates limited to these 7 questions? The questions limited to these 7?
That was, yes.
Okay. And these are written ones, is that right?
They will provide us answers in writing, and then we will ask the questions based on the answer. That's right, the responses. So if they, like I said, if they said they worked at Goodwill, we may ask questions about that.
Right.
This will go out with the applicant pack, essentially.
Right. We've been around long enough to know that can lead down a rabbit's trail if we start asking a lot of questions beyond it. So there has to be some control over who's ever facilitating the meeting at that time to ensure that doesn't happen.
That's correct.
I control
Okay.
the microphone.
And to your respectfully, Shannon, Manager Jones, that is the chair's responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. Just like it's the chair's responsibility to make sure that there isn't any undue back and forth that's not respectful of the candidates and of the board members. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? Do I have a motion?
No, you have one.
Oh,
All you have to do is call for a vote.
oh. So I have a second?
All in
I
favor?
seconded it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays?
Any opposed?
The motion, any opposed? No, the motion passes.
Yeah.
Agenda item 5, confirm the next regular ad hoc appointments committee meeting date, time, and location. Managers, we do not currently have a scheduled Central Health Ad Hoc Appointments Committee meeting. When a need for a meeting arises, we will work with the committee members and other managers to choose the date and time and the works with everyone's schedule. Yes, Manager Velez.
Dr. Martin.
Mike.
Dr. Martin, could we have an update on when our next board and appointments for the various appointments that we make to the outside entities? Kind of an update as
Yeah,
to
that was
when
gonna-
they're up next?
Yeah, we have one coming up for Integral Care, and we have two for Sendero coming up, so we'll
All
probably,
are reappointments.
Okay,
they're all reappointments, so we'll, call a meeting as soon as we get everyone together, okay?
clarification on that.
Yes?
Yes, I know that they are reappointments, but is it also an option for new or other people to be considered? I'm just asking.
No,
No.
I don't believe so.
Under reappointments?
Under reappointments, unless we have something in the bylaws that requires us to go out and ask, there is nothing in the bylaws, and it has to be in their bylaws. It has to be in the
The Sendero-
organization.
But,
That's right.
but I gather we choose to not reappoint someone, that becomes a vacancy.
That's
Right.
true.
And then,
You
yeah.
can say, if,
We don't.
if I'm a candidate and I say, I want to be reappointed, and the appointments committee says, but you don't do a good job and we don't want to reappoint you, I'm not reappointed.
And then there is a vacancy,
All
and then we go through the other process.
The process for a new appointment?
Yes. At this time, I'm ready to accept the motion for adjournment. Oh, I'm sorry, Manager Valdez.
One last clarifying question. Can we make sure whoever legal is, or Mike or somebody, whether or not we have that language included in all the appointments that we make for boards and commissions? So that we can know that there is a consistency in what we do.
What's the language? I'm sorry.
The language that if you are up for reappointment, no other candidates will be considered unless you are shown to be less diligent in the completion of your
I
job.
don't know I make it that personal, just you're not
No, it's
reappointed.
just, well, no, I mean, because for the county and the city, appointments and reappointments are all candidates are considered.
And,
And that's why I'm asking for
and-
central health.
well, they would be, but if we don't approve it, I mean,
Not all candidates, they do not go out for a call,
That's
at
right,
least for the county,
right.
until after a certain amount of time.
For-
So as long as
You're doing your
our
job.
board, that's right, as long as the board member that's appointed by the authority says, I want to be appointed, then
There's
they
no-
get reappointed, and nobody else is considered.
Oh,
After a period of time, however, there will be an outcall for other applicants. If it was my position, I am encouraged to apply if I choose to, but I don't just get automatically
Automatic.
reappointed.
right, and I agree with everything everyone said. The only part that things seem to be missing is there an evaluative process by the board of the members' performance on that appointment?
And we talked about that earlier at meetings before. We thought about the fact that it's difficult to evaluate their performance on
That board.
on somebody else's board.
Yeah, yeah.
You can talk about our performance on our board, but it's hard to tell what they are doing on their board. We did say that we would ask the chair, but then we thought, well, what if the chair that needs to be reappointed? And so our fallback position, which is in the procedure for a new appointment, is to have a discussion with them. Have them come in, have them tell us things that they've learned on the new board, things that they would like to see differently. Are there any things that they feel that the board is deficit on, et cetera, et cetera? And then that's our evaluation. Now, we probably won't take that into consideration for this reappointment, but it could be taken into consideration for the
Okay,
next.
okay, that answers the question.
Somewhere down the line.
the plan was to have an interview, essentially a Q&A with them.
Yeah.
All right, at this time, I'm ready to accept the motion for adjournment. Manager Brinson, a second, Manager Valadez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays, the motion carries, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.